You all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Antoinette, can I get a roll call?
Mr. Cook?
Present.
Mr. D'Andriano?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. Don, would you like to read the first
Yes, which
public
one is
hearing
first?
notice?
Veterans exemptions.
Do you have it?
Senior? I have senior. I don't see veterans. Yes, it's here. I have the commercial.
Hold on one second.
The veterans. Have it in? No? Vacant? Internet, yeah.
Which one do you have?
I have the senior citizen exemptions, which is number 3. Thanks, Rich.
No, it's number
Yep.
2. The
the
senior is number
reso.
2, number 1 is, no, I don't have it either.
What you gave me, Rich, is the resolution. Is the notice in it?
Turn 3 pages.
Yep.
Actually, no, I don't have the public hearing notice in that. I don't.
Okay.
I feel like we could rattle it off just from so many of the other ones.
Yeah, hold on, let me see.
Maybe just, it's probably identical.
It is almost identical. All right, you want to waive the reading of the public hearing notice? Go right to the public hearing.
All right. Why don't you do that on motion?
Let me have it back. Sorry for the confusion, folks. I'd like to waive the reading of the public hearing and open the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the public hearing is on local law number 1. It is chapter...
54.
No, it's not. It is chapter 142, taxation of the town of Patterson, and it seeks to increase the veterans exemption. We would be going 15% of the assessed value of the property not to exceed $15,000, going from $12,000, and 50% for a Cold War veteran disability rating, going from $54,000 to $180,000. Does anybody wish to make any comments on this local law? Going once. It's a stampede.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have the second public hearing notice?
I do. And I will read that one.
That one we'll read.
Town of Patterson, notice of hearing, amendments to Chapter 142 of the Patterson Town Code. Public notice is hereby given that there has been introduced before the Town Board of the Town of Patterson, New York on January 10, 2018, an amendment to Patterson Town Code, Chapter 142, entitled Taxation, which amendment will revise Section 142-1 to establish income limits for the senior citizen exemptions. Now therefore, pursuant to Section 20 of the Municipal Home Rule Law, the Town Board of the Town of Patterson, New York will hold a public hearing on the aforesaid amendment at the town offices, 1142 Route 311, Patterson, New York, on January 24, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the evening of that day, or as soon thereafter as may be held, at which time all persons interested therein shall be heard. The Town Board will make every effort to assure that the hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Anyone requiring special assistance and/or reasonable accommodations should contact the Town Clerk. Dated January 11, 2018, by order of the Town Board of the Town of Patterson. Antoinette Kopek, Town Clerk.
So everybody understands what we are doing here. As I was working on the change for the veterans exemption, I discovered that a number of years ago, the town board had adopted a resolution creating a senior citizens exemption. Unfortunately, the way that they did it, it never ended up in the code book. But we've been giving the seniors an exemption under that resolution that they did for many, many years. What I am doing here, what we are doing here, the town board, is basically adopting a local law to put that section, the senior citizens exemption, in our code book, so it's in the code book properly.
So all along, the seniors have been getting the exemption.
And there's no change to what they've been getting or what they will be getting.
This just codifies it.
Correct. Anybody wish to comment on this local law?
Close the public hearing?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, would somebody like to audit the bills?
I'll make a motion that the town board approve abstract number 1 dated January 12th, 2018, in the amount of $806.92. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Rogan, you're back.
Okay, well, since we just spoke about it, or maybe didn't speak about it with public comment, make a motion to move the resolution for the adoption of local law number 1 of 2018 and introduce this resolution as though it were read in its entirety into the record. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Second, it gives me great pleasure to recommend that we hire Harry Gonzalez as an EMT with the town of Patterson once all paperwork has been filed at a rate of $15 an hour. Mr. Gonzalez we interviewed, and he was a great candidate. He needed a little bit of additional training, which he has done, and volunteered his time with the town of Patterson over the last 2 months. So that is going to be a great addition and an asset for the town of Patterson. So I will move that we hire Mr. Gonzalez. So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would
Okay,
like to
go.
make a motion to add one item to my agenda. It's on the Patterson Community Church.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I have a letter here from the pastor of the Patterson Community Church, Pastor David Frost, requesting a waiver of a $75 sign fee in order that they allow the changing of the lettering on the current Grange building sign, which currently reads Patterson Grange. They'd like to change that lettering to read the Church Food Pantry, 2nd and 4th Sundays, 11 a.m. So it's a small sign. It hangs painted sign. And so I think, given the nature of this request, that we should approve the $75 waiver of the sign fee. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, first on my agenda is the proposed cell tower at the recycling center. This is more of an update. We did get additional photo simulations in from the consultant that we were working with. I also have the photo simulations from Metro North for the 164 site. We will try to get them all up on the website. I did have a discussion, a conference call this week with the consultants we've been working with and the town attorney to work on the language of a proposed contract. So we are still working on that. And so everybody else knows the next step in this process is to take a look at the an RF analysis based on the height of the tower to see if that is the height that it needs to be, or if we can get it down a little bit lower, and if it works for the cell carriers. So that will be the next step. Bruce, you're just about to pop out of that chair.
Good evening, Bruce Major, 166 Sunset Drive. I don't understand this rush for a contract. For a little history, Metro North came in back in October of 2015. There is 2 sets of minutes, the 7th and the 24th of October. Metro North said that they were going to put up the tower on 164 in the month of November. We're now 2 years later. I don't get a sense for this rush to put it at the recycling center. I've looked at the drawings. There will be some impact on some people. The concern I have is the failure of the town to do overlays so that 3 months from now, another carrier comes in and says, we need to put it at another location because this area of Patterson is not being covered. It's just like a master plan. I know I shouldn't bring up the word master plan, but I will bring it up. I would hope that this town would obtain from all the current cell towers within the town their coverage, do an overlay to see whether or not this location or location on 164, or be it the Baptist church, which is considering a site, or the fire department that may be considering a site, or some other location. I think we need to do an overlay to make sure that we don't end up with 3 towers when in fact we may only need 1, we may need 2. But I think it's important for the town to take the time. We certainly took a year to develop a plan for our ambulance service. I haven't seen any article where Metro North says, we're going to stick it down your throat on 164 unless you act immediately. So I'm asking the town to take a little more time, maybe put a committee together of a couple of people on the town board, spend the time, do the overlays, and see whether or not this is in fact the right location. Thank you very much.
Okay, Bruce, first, I'm going to object to your characterization of rushing. As you said, we've been working on this for a considerably long time. The driver in this, as you pointed out, is Metro North, who wanted to have a tower to provide for emergency services down on 164 a long time ago. And to your point about doing the analysis, I think that's what I was just referring to when I said the next step in this process is to look at the RF simulations for signal strength to make sure this site is going to work for this carrier, for a carrier, and not only for that carrier, but other carriers as well. That's the next step. So we're not rushing headlong into this and signing a contract for a site we don't know is going to work and be the best solution for the problem. We are doing our due diligence and we are working towards a goal of coming up with an answer and a public information meeting where we can present all this to the public so everybody else can weigh in on this.
Do you plan on doing overlays of all the existing cell towers to determine the actual coverage throughout the town?
I have overlays of all the existing cell towers.
Will you make them available to the public?
Sure,
Okay.
sure, that's not a problem.
And the reason why I talk about my concern for a rush is that there was a public notice and an article in the paper by your vendor without the approval of the town board. I was at a budget meeting when you had to inform them that you had just come up with this individual and that you were not aware that in fact he had put in a legal notice and also an article in the paper in which he failed to identify who he was. So I have concern when I see things not following the normal procedure that has been done in the past, and that is with this board authorizing those type of approvals.
Seems to me that that notice that went in the paper was also followed up with a letter out of my office letting the residents in the area that I felt were going to be most directly impacted, letting them know that we were doing the balloon test. We needed to do that balloon test in order to begin the evaluation of the site.
I have no problem with the letter you sent out, except that it did not cover those individuals who live on Somerset Drive, both in the new and old section, that will actually have and actually see that cell tower. So it was limited. I think it was put out. I don't know who actually sent it out, Rich. Clearly, I looked at the list of individuals it was sent to. There were many people left off that list who I think should have been included. So I applaud you for sending out that letter. But once again, I saw something moving a lot faster. Normally, this board approves everything. And I didn't see this board approve this vendor moving forward. Here again, I was at that work session when you informed the rest of the board. All I'm asking you to do is make sure that all the information is put out, that everybody has an understanding of where we're going with the cell tower.
Bruce, you know how I've worked for many, many years. All the information will be put out, and there will be ample opportunity for the public to weigh in on this location.
Okay, and I hope that the other overlays are also put out to the public so they can see where the other dead spots will be.
Perhaps you need to come into my office and we can go through the file I have on all the other cell towers within the town and the overlays I've received from them.
That
So
would
we
be-
can have maybe a better discussion on this.
That'd be fine, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, back at the end of December, unfortunately, there were some issues with the federal government that caused some concern with many of New York State residents, and Governor Cuomo, in my opinion, acted a little bit hastily and decided that he was going to require everybody to take prepayment of taxes. Just so everybody in Patterson realizes, we've been taking prepayment of taxes for years. Mary Delanoy is phenomenal at the job she does, and you know, she's had that policy for a while, and nothing has changed. But I did receive a letter from Mrs. Delanoy, and I'd like to just read it to the public and to the town board. I'm going to skip the first paragraph. Well, I can't skip the first paragraph. I'd like to take a moment to thank you. This is to myself, Rich Williams, from Mary Delanoy. I'd like to take a moment to thank you for your support and leadership during the most recent events that transpired due to the passing of the federal tax reform law on December 19th, 2017, during the height of the holiday season. I'm sure you're aware this is the biggest tax reform law change to occur in more than 30 years. On behalf of the town of Patterson and myself, I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the U.S. Post Office, Patterson location, and Postmaster Margaret Kessman and her staff provided the residents of Patterson with favorable mailing options, swift and courteous service during the busy holiday season. And I would also like to thank Mrs. Kessman for all her hard work on this. I know we all scrambled. I'd like to provide you with some information as it relates in particular to how the prepayment of 2018 property tax situation unfolded in the town of Patterson tax office. My staff and I spent a total of 78 hours in 4 days preparing for and processing the numbers cited below. I am happy to inform you that to the best of my knowledge, the tax office did not receive one complaint. As always, I was proud to provide the residents of Patterson with the most accurate and efficient services necessary for them to meet whatever personal deadline they might have had. During the holiday week of December 26th through December 29th, the tax office fielded approximately 350 calls, of only which a nominal amount resulted in voicemails. On December 29th, 2017, the tax office was open during regular town hall business hours from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. to collect prepayment of taxes. We received 155 walk-in payments in those 4 hours. We processed 86 mailed-in payments. 240 payments were processed, totaling $914,952.07 in tax dollars. So, Mary, I just want to say, you know, I know how stressful the whole time was because I was here with you, and you did a phenomenal job as always. So great job. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.
And I will defer.
I was going to say, my father chased her down in the post office parking lot to give her payments.
I'll defer my executive session to the end of the meeting.
I'm up.
You're up.
Okay. The first item on my agenda is recreation requests. Mr. Matthew Chabaro is requesting a fee waiver for concerts scheduled for this summer, sponsored by the Duffel Bag and the American Veterans Historical Museum. They'd like to have 2 big band concerts at the Rec Center. The first one is in July, and that will be a Southern Duchess Concert Band, and the second one will be on August 2nd, and it will be the 42nd Infantry Band. So I'd like to make a motion to waive the fee for the use of the Recreation Center on these 2 dates. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
before you move on, I just want to say that I've been to the concerts in past years. They are phenomenal concerts, and I encourage everybody, if you can find the time, to attend.
Both concerts are free.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
That's all right.
Free is a good word. Okay, the second item on my agenda is the Putnam Lake Park District improvements. The boat launch areas were previously used by the Putnam Lake Fire Department and has become usable for accumulating sediment, creating shallow conditions. So recently, the fire department has installed a new boat ramp at the Putnam Lake Boathouse in order to provide improved access to the lake for the Putnam Lake Fire Department emergency rescue boat. The advisory board has asked for the whole driveway to be repaved, and the cost for that, to finish the repaving of the entire length of the boathouse driveway, will be in the amount of $1,600. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize payment of this work in the amount not to exceed $1,600. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. D'Andriano.
My agenda are the fire department contracts, so I'll start with the Patterson Fire Department. We already had the public hearing on this, and I believe everything is together with all the attorneys. We got everything back.
We heard from the Patterson Fire Department attorney 5 weeks ago, Dave Garwood, 5 weeks ago. He had a couple of small comments. We have not heard anything since.
Right, he was supposed to have contact with you with other,
It's been 6 weeks. So,
I will call him tomorrow.
all right, well, just so we can keep this process moving, I'd like to move ahead with the resolution approving the contract. If we need to amend it later on, we can, and if not, we'll be in good shape to move forward.
Eleanor Smith, President, Patterson Fire Department. My last conversation with Dave was that he did speak to Mike Liguori, and he did mention a couple of the other things that we were discussing that we needed to discuss with the attorneys that we wanted to change or amend.
I checked in with Mike Liguori this morning, and as of this morning, about 10:30, he had not heard from Dave Garwood since, like I said, about 4 to 6 weeks ago, where we
When was that contract sent to us? It wasn't even that long ago, I don't even think.
sent up to Dave Garwood about 6 weeks ago.
Okay, because I just got it recently, like maybe 3 weeks ago at the most.
Well, it was sent to everybody about the same time.
Okay, I'll have to check my email on that one.
But it was sent to both Matt and Eleanor, yes.
Eleanor, the adoption of the resolution is going to authorize Rich to sign the contract unless there's any substantial changes to it. So and the term substantial is a relative one, but if there are minor things, then...
Well, there might be a substantial one. I mean, I think we are in discussion with the vehicle replacement money being held by the town, and it was because of bonding. And we have researched the bonding, and that we can get the bonding for the same amount of money. So that's a large issue.
Do that. If you
Excuse
could-
me?
If you could pass that section of law on to us, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for also. I do have a couple of banks that we're working with.
Okay.
That also are sending over information. I said I wanted it in writing.
I don't think you're being able to bond the vehicles or get better financing is going to sway anybody's opinion, Lauren, right now.
Okay, because when we went to your office, and that was the reasoning behind that, you said the number one reason that we put that in the contract was because you can get a better rate. And we said to you, well, if that's the only reason, and we can get the same rate or maybe better, then that shouldn't be in there, and you agreed on that.
No, I did not agree on that
Okay.
because it's much, much more extensive than that. We have a situation where currently you have a tremendous shortfall in your vehicle replacement schedule for the vehicles that you've told us you need to replace. By 2019, that shortfall goes to $2.5 million.
We are working on this, Rich. This is something that was handed down to us. We're working on this, and I think that Matt has a good plan. We've talked to our attorney. We've got a couple accountants. The accountant's going to come in here and explain it to you to make you understand how it's going to work and the plan that we have. So I'd like to have some more time to talk to you about that because it is a good plan and it's going to work, and that we are able to bond, and that was the number one reason.
Even if you're able to bond.
Well, then, you're going back on what you told me initially.
I'm not going back, and don't
Yes,
sit
you
here
are.
and
Yes,
say
you
that
are.
I said something I didn't, because this has been a concern of mine and the whole town board right along. We're very concerned about the shortfall you have in funding.
And by you,
For the equipment.
by you taking the money and purchasing the vehicles, how is that changing the shortfall?
It's not, but we've got to
Okay,
get
so-
out-
so then
it's-
why?
We've got to get out in front of the fact that there is a shortfall with the fire department, how vehicles are being funded, how they're being
Right.
replaced. We've got to get out in front of this, Eleanor.
And we're not buying a vehicle right now because we need space in our fire department, so we're looking at a capital improvement. So there's other things that are hinging on this. We are in need of vehicles, and we do have the money right now to buy a couple of them without any financing, so we're working on it. So I'm not signing the contract right now. I will not, against our attorney and my board, I will not be signing the contract until that issue is resolved with the board and with our attorney.
If I could, Eleanor, the board's action tonight is reviewing the contract that was the subject of the public hearing. They're authorizing Rich to sign it. There's nothing binding
Okay.
about that on the fire
Okay,
department's
I just wanted to be
part.
clear on that.
No, it will
Thank you.
allow the discussions to continue, and it
Okay.
in
Okay.
no way binds the fire
Okay.
department. It's
Thank you
just-
for explaining
it's
that.
just authorizing Rich to sign
Okay.
it
Thank you.
unless there's substantial changes.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
So with that said, I'd like to introduce the resolution as written, make a motion to accept the resolution as written for the Patterson Fire Department contract. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the Putt Lake Fire Department, I believe we're all set with them.
Mike, any concerns?
Myself, no. We received our contract December 20th, and we're finalizing, sorry. Mike Arcol, President of Putnam Lake Fire Department. Richard sent out the contract on December 20th for us to review. I did with our membership, and we're okay with that, so we're ready to sign with it whenever you're
Okay.
available. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution to renew the agreement with the Putnam Lake Fire Department as written. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Last item on my agenda is the supplemental EMS contract with the Patterson Fire Department. So we have, I think everyone got a copy of the contract. Do you want to comment? Rich?
Well, I worked with Michael Ligori. We prepared a contract based on the discussions we've been having with Patterson Fire Department. Eleanor, you've received a copy?
On the 18th, yes.
Okay.
And that's also in review, we sent that to today to look at. I do that with all my contracts, so. as soon as
That's a
it gets
good,
back to me.
it's a good policy to have.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, thank you.
So, yeah, this is basically just on so that everybody can acknowledge that a contract has been prepared based on our discussions. Certainly, everybody has a chance to look at it, town board, Patterson Fire Department. And then, in the future, we'll bring it back up.
Good. So we finally have something in writing, and we can chew on it and move forward. That is all I have.
Okay. Next on tonight's agenda is the local law number 2, the senior citizen exemption. This was the subject of the public hearing earlier tonight. And so I will make a motion that the town board adopt local law number 2 and have before us of chapter 142 to go into the town code. So I'll just make that motion as it was so read. So moved.
I'd like to second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfers. These are still from 2017. Let's see. Following transfer is necessary to reallocate funds for the central data processing equipment and capital outlay. We're moving $631 from central data processing contractual to central data processing equipment and capital outlay. Number 65 is moving money from justice trading to justice contractual, $100. Number 66 is moving money from planner contractual, $77, to planner training, $77. Next is sanitation contractual, and moving $509 from contractual transfer charges to sanitation contractual expense account, $509. So I'll make a motion that the town board approve budget transfer request number 64, 65, 66, 67, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have on the agenda is to advertise for a temporary part-time position in the planning department. As mentioned a meeting or two ago, we received a grant for a scanner to scan many of our records and maps and schematics. And part of that grant, in addition to the equipment, covered hiring a part-time person. So I'm going to make a motion that the town board approve and authorize the town clerk to advertise for a temporary part-time person in the planning department to handle this work. The salary would be $12 per hour. So I'll make that as a motion, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's for the town clerk to advertise?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. Other business? Any town board member have any other business?
The other business. Okay. Oh, that's why you were giving it to me. Oh, okay. So you're just giving me a copy. Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
Well-rehearsed script up here.
Smooth meeting tonight. I'd like to make a motion to approve court clerk training. One of our court clerks in the amount of $168. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any town board member have any other business?
I have one thing. You mentioned about us having a discussion on shared services.
Yes.
Can we do that next meeting?
Sure. I will tell you that I have a meeting with my fellow supervisors on Friday to work on a shared services plan, and there is a meeting coming up with the county that I think everybody got invited to.
Recall.
February 5th.
Okay. That was, everyone got invited, right? All the town boards and everybody. Right?
Fire chiefs,
Fire
everybody
chiefs.
she could think of. That'll be very productive. All right, public recognition. Any member of the audience have anything they'd like to bring before the board?
Bruce Major again. Actually, what I'd like to do is thank both the board and the fire department. There are very few members of the community that actually go to the budget work sessions. I am the one fool who actually shows up for a lot of them. I will just describe the negotiations between the fire department and the town board as interesting. And I am thrilled tonight to see that the supplementary coverage, the backup coverage, looks like it's going to come through, because it was really a tough go. And I'm really glad to see that both sides were able to work it out to where it looks like we will in fact have a backup service. The other thing I'd like to bring up.
Speaking of ambulance service.
Ambulance service, yes, the ambulance service. The other thing I'd like to bring up, if you remember at the last town board meeting, I reminded you that I provided all of you with a copy of the town of Carmel's law that they were looking to put in reference to cell towers. And I'd like to know, if you haven't been able to prepare yourselves, whether or not you have any comment relative to that local law, and whether or not there is any sections within that local law should be considered for our town code. And if you're not prepared tonight, I can wait until the next meeting.
I went through it. It's pretty inclusive. They take pains about aesthetics, I guess that you'd call it. I haven't compared it up against ours, but I am sure with our author that, you know, we're in good standing, but I certainly will do that.
Thank you very much.
Well, does any other town board member have any comments on it?
I want to hear from the town planners.
Okay, you'll hear from the town planner. Bruce, I think Carmel worked very hard on that local law, and I do commend him on that. I don't think it's something that we can use here. Currently, the process that we use when we've got a cell tower come into the town is we request an area variance and a use variance because we don't permit cell towers anywhere, hence the use variance. Now, the standards that we have to apply in reviewing that application are those established by the courts, I think, in the Wilroth decision. It is public necessity, not the standards for a typical use variance. And through that process, that gives us a lot of flexibility in the things that we can ask for. And I'll expand on that in a minute. But with regards to Carmel, they were very specific in what they were looking to do and where they were looking to do it. One of my big concerns with Carmel's law was they also touched on the RF frequencies, which the federal government has clearly said local municipalities cannot evaluate when they're evaluating the potential for a cell tower. But with regards to having a local law on the books, I'm sure you're aware that in 2009, the FCC established certain rules that the town has to use to evaluate a cell tower, and also they established a shot clock. That FCC ruling in 2009 was ultimately upheld by the Supreme Court in 2012, but as a result of the Supreme Court decision in 2014, the FCC issued a report and further ruling on cell towers and what towns can look at and how they have to evaluate the cell towers under the shot clock. One of the things that the FCC said in their ruling was that a town has a very limited window in which they can declare an application incomplete. But when they do declare the application incomplete, which tolls the shot clock, they have to very specifically enumerate what the issues are that are absent from the application made by the cell tower as it relates to the requirements of the code that they're using to find that application incomplete. They also have to, the local municipality has to also expand on how the applicant, can potentially address the issues of incompleteness. So, I'm reluctant to actually have a local law that starts specifying what we're looking at and what we're not, because as somebody who's looked at many cell tower applications, I can tell you pretty much every application and every site is unique. Now, under the standards for public necessity, we have a great deal of flexibility on what we can look at and what we can't look at. But certainly the driver in the public necessity is, is it the site that provides the least impact to the town and the best coverage? And I think those are the most appropriate standards we have. But the public necessity standards give us a great deal more flexibility than the Carmel law will give the town of Carmel when they have to evaluate an incomplete application and very specifically specify within the constraints of that law how that application is incomplete. So that's my opinion. That's why I've always maintained that the town is best served by our current process, making an applicant go for a use variance and an area variance along with site plan approval, as opposed to having a local law which will push that cell tower into one area of the town or another, or establishes criteria which if we miss something, then, we may open the door for something we don't really desire. My opinion, from the town planner. Anyone else have anything they wish to address to the board? George, how are you?
George Disbrow, Patterson resident, as well as a member of the library, Patterson Library Board of Trustees. Just have two brief announcements I wanted to get out to the community. One, again this year, AARP and the library have joined together to offer free tax assistance in preparation. It begins in February and goes until April 13th. You can either call the library to schedule an appointment. It's free. You don't have to be an AARP member, nor is there any age restriction at all. You don't have to be a senior citizen to have this done. And there are flyers at the library, and I believe that by tomorrow morning there'll be a flyer downstairs in this building. So that was one announcement. The other one is the library is looking for new members, community members, who are interested in serving as a trustee on the library board. The only two requirements are age 18 and being a resident of the town of Patterson. And if you are interested, on the website, pattersonlibrary.org, or to stop in at the library, there is information there. And we invite as many community members as we can accommodate, but we'd like to, if you're interested in being a part of the library board, time is good now. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Any other member of the public?
Mike Aricol, Putnam Lake Fire Department, President. I'm not sure if you're referring to us, Bruce, and I don't know if anybody's aware, but as of November, Verizon did not re-sign the contract with the lease for the firehouse. So I believe as far as the zoning and planning, they know that there's no more application for the
Could we
cell
get a
tower.
letter so we could close the file?
Okay. I just thought of it when you mentioned that.
Okay.
But if you were referring to us, that contract is a null and void.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Chris DiGiacinto. I'm a resident of Patterson since '03. I'm a neighbor of John Boyles and Bruce Major. I apologize, I haven't come to any meetings in the town, and this is my first one. Very impressed with the way everybody interacts in the business at hand. And without seeming ignorant or not aware of the circumstances involved with the cell tower, I'm very interested. I can say, being a resident and having observed the balloon test, that it's concerning to me as a resident. It's concerning because it's probably less than a mile from our home. And it's something that I'm going to be more active and engaged in observing the process as it goes forward. And I can say from my simple, humble opinion that I'm opposed to it, but respectfully so.
Okay.
I appreciate your time and your education, and I'm very happy to take more time to be involved and invested in the process. So,
Okay. Are you aware, sir, that the initial report is up on our website?
Yes, I have been, and I've been looking at that. And so my point is really just to sort of admit to my ignorance.
No, that's fine.
And tell you that I'm very invested in trying to learn more about how the board goes about finding the best site for the town.
Listen, my door is always open. I would encourage you to call ahead of
Sure.
time. But I'll be happy to talk with you, anytime you'd like.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Can I get a motion to go into executive session for the
Motion to go into
purposes
executive session,
of discussing a personnel issue?
just like I said.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.